Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Squid and Ultimate Leafs fan show brought to you by the Hockey News. With over 2 million dedicated readers, the Hockey News is the authoritative source of hockey and the #1 hockey publication in North America. With an ever-growing podcast network and video database on top of an already established print and digital brand, the Hockey News is there to cover all the major hockey stories from around the world. Visit thn.com/deal to get the best value on a subscription to the Hockey News. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs fan, and joining me as always, my co-host, Ricky Squid Vive. Squid, how you keeping, my man?
Oh, pretty darn good. Just loving the weather the last 3 or 4 days out on the golf course, and just chilling, watching hockey. I get home and then I start watching hockey as soon as I get home. And well, one night was a little bit long. It was with the 5 overtimes, which was kind of crazy. But
yes.
No, it's good. It's good. It's fun to watch. Some of the games have been pretty exciting.
Well, like most of the fans, around, we're all disappointed with the early exit from the playoffs. And as everyone will offer some insights in today, what's in store for the Buds going forward. We might be a little late, because the team has been broken down, rebuilt, rejigged, and everything. And that was all on social media before the first player actually entered the dressing room after the end of Game 5. So we're sorry for our tardiness coming a few days after that exit. We're also excited to bring the second part of our interview with legendary Leaf defenseman Borje Salming. And I think the listeners today, Squid, are really in for a treat with insights playing in Toronto. The thing that really gets me in this interview with Borje is how humble, not only how humble he is, but just how quickly this guy adapted and got it playing in North America. This is a new country, new eating habits, new language, new rituals for a hockey team, all these type of things. And he just got it and fit in so quickly.
Yeah, that was remarkable, actually, that he was able to come over, and be one of the first guys, to come over from Europe. And he adjusted so quickly that it was unbelievable. And I think that tells you just how good he was and how good he was at reading the game and knowing what he had to do. Because it's a big adjustment going from the Olympic size ice to NHL size ice to begin with. But he figured it out. He figured it out really quick.
And the other thing, too, is remember, this guy came from northern Sweden, so it's not like he's from Stockholm where he was up to date on what was going on in the National Hockey League. This guy came from a one-horse town where he barely had a TV to watch a game. So anyway, I mean, I think that, that what people just want to stay tuned and listen to that. I mean, that's just worth it. And he's just a remarkable athlete and just a great guy on top of all of that. So, I mean, let's get to it. The elephant in the room is obviously, let's get it out of the way. You take it away. What happened to the Leafs?
Well, I mean, again, they were chasing the game in Game 5. And, what happens when you're chasing the game, especially with the Leafs and with most teams in the league, is you're going to make mistakes. And that second goal was a killer. It was a bad change. Yeah. And Freddie let in a pretty weak one on that one. So, we could throw blame all over the place if we really want to, but the bottom line is it was a horrible change, and that left Marincin kind of in no man's land. And then, the weak goal from, just above the goal line. And so, it's one of those things. Now you're down 2-0, and now you really gotta try and pour it on, and they couldn't really get it done.
Well, I mean, the obvious lack of scoring, particularly the secondary side, is a puzzling aspect of the game that's going to be, again, addressed in the offseason, no question. But at some point, I mean, the players have to be accountable. I mean, there's just no other way to explain it than that. I mean, you got to look in the mirror, guys, at some point and give yourself a shake.
Well, I heard Dubas's interview, and he's talking about how he's taking the blame and all this. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. You assembled this group that are extremely talented, and they're fast, and they're good players, and they didn't get the job done. So I think every single one of those guys has to look in the mirror and just say, did I do everything I could have done win this series or this hockey game. And the players, I mean, they have to take accountability for what happened, and the GM as well. I mean, everybody does, but now everybody has to look at everything and say, where do we go from here? What do we need to do to get better? What do we need to do to put together a team that can get by a round in the playoffs?
What's astonishing to me is how you can be motivated. Now, Mitch Marner, I mean, he could get away with this maybe as a rookie and being a happy-go-lucky kid, but after 4 years, he should maybe choose his words a little carefully, saying he wasn't prepared and engaged in game 1 against Columbus. Now, okay, I'm a 66-year-old stiff playing beer league hockey. I haven't played for 5 months, and I'm playing Monday night for the first time in that time period. I can barely sleep. I'm all excited to play. And our games are in reverse sometimes when you watch them. How the hell can you be a National Hockey League player going to playoffs and not be jumping over the boards to get out there and be excited to play and not be engaged? I mean, that was just absolutely startling when I heard that.
I mean, that blows my mind. I mean, you're getting paid all that money to go out and be prepared and be ready when the puck drops and be engaged and do the best you can. I don't get it. You're a professional. You got to approach it as a professional and go out there and you got to be ready, and you got to be excited, and you got to be engaged and get into it. And to hear those comments, I was shocked as well, Mike.
Boy, I know, I'm with you. I mean, the D is obviously a glaring issue that's going to be a key focus in the offseason as well, assuming Barrie and Ceci are gone. After watching Seth Jones in that series, man, oh man, I mean, that's clearly lacking. Unfortunately, those players don't come along too often. They're very rare. So obviously the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to have to do something. There's going to be some big changes. So I would say, as I said a couple of weeks before on our podcast, one of the big names is they're going to have to move something. And, instead of targeting specific players that could be trading chips, why don't we start with the players that are actually going to be here next year that we think are surefire guys to probably be here? Now, Johnny Tavares, because his contract is unmovable, he's got to be here. He's not going anywhere. Austin Matthews, you just don't give up big centers. You can't win a Stanley Cup without one. He's not going anywhere. Nick Robinson, he's cheap. He's got ability. They're invested in him because they let him play in the play-in. This kid they signed out of Russia, this Barbanov, Alexander, he's probably going to get a shot to play, and he's also cheap. And on the back end, I would say Morgan Rowley and Jake Muzzin are the two guys that are not going anywhere. But the rest, including Freddie, I would say are all up for grabs. Are you in agreement with that?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I would have to think right now that if you look at their team, I don't think anybody is untouchable. Well, some of them are because they have no trades or no new
Yes, exactly. Well, yeah, that aside.
Yeah, but I think you got to look at everything. And I thought Justin Hall played pretty good myself, and I would put him in there as a guy who's cheap and can get the job done. But he has to play with someone pretty good as well. And they're like I heard Kyle Dubas talking about. We have Sandin, we have
Liljegren.
I forget the other Swedish
Liljegren.
But are they ready? Like, are they ready? And are they? I mean, it seems like they're the same type of defenseman that they went and got in CC and Barrie, and they're still young. Are they ready to compete and win at the National Hockey League level? I'm not so sure that would be the case.
Well, I mean, again, the way everybody's talking now, it's almost like, you want to give it, I'll just throw his name out there. You give up a $10 million salary and you go and hire 4 Kyle Cliffords because that's what wins for you. I mean, what happened to the days when you signed the best possible player available? But the way the game has changed, the way it's leaning that way. And that's what they killed the Leafs.
Yeah. I mean, they've got to figure out a way. Their 1 and 2 lines are pretty much set. And those are 2 really good lines that can score goals. They got to find a way to have a real solid third checking line that can shut other teams' best lines down. And then they got to put together a real good 4th energy line. but those guys got to play a little more too. That's the thing. I mean, the National Hockey League now is a 4-line game. It's not a 2 or a 3-line game now. I mean, it's played so fast, it's played so quick that it's very, very difficult to play 3 lines most of the night, have your 4th line play 3 minutes and expect them to go out and do anything. So, I mean, in our day, yes, it was, you played 3 lines and the 4th line might get, 2 or 3 minutes, and that's just the way it was. The game has changed. It's different now. It's a 4-line game. And if you've got 4 good lines, especially a good 3rd line checking line, then I think your depth is better. Get 2 scoring lines, yeah. Some nights one might get shut down, the other one comes up big. Your 3rd line might, if they shut down the other team's top line, and you get something out of your 4th line, then you're going to win hockey games.
Well, there's about a total of 6 players, looks like they're up for a couple of restricted free agents in Mikheyev and Dermott, and a couple of unrestricted free agents with Spezza, Clifford, even Malgin you could throw in there. With all these guys out there, it frees up about $15 million for him to spend, but the players have to be replaced. So there's going to be some wrangling, and there's going to have to be some trading. And he suggested that they have some moves in mind. And he's just not waking up this morning and looking at his salary cap situation thinking, I do have an issue moving forward. So I'm just saying to folks that if Wayne Gretzky can be traded, anybody can be traded. So be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. I mean, the day that he got traded, that just said, okay, anybody in the National Hockey League can be traded. But I mean, that Kyle Dubas has been thinking about this, and he's got probably, I would guess, probably 50 pages of writing of possible, trades or moves or whatever it might be. It's not like he's all of a sudden woken up and say, oh, okay, I got to do this or I got to do that. He's been thinking about this for quite some time, probably throughout the entire shutdown and even before that. So, they'll get something done, and hopefully the right moves that'll make this team a little bit better, a little bit grittier, a little bit able to, kind of able to close things when they need to.
Well, the rumors are already starting. I mean, disgruntled goalie Matt Murray in Pittsburgh, the rumor out there from Mr. Kiprios, who's back on the air, we'll give him a little shout out there, is always suggesting that he's hearing that it's Matt Murray for Frederik Andersen. So let all the stories and rumors and talks and all that all start shaking out, but we're going to watch with real interest here as we move forward. So the one thing they got through yesterday was, which they always hate doing at this time of the year, is the exit meetings. Thought I'd take a little different twist on this and say, you went through a few exit meetings in your time as a hockey player. Just walk the listeners through what actually that entails. Walking in the room, who's in the room with you, who talks, and what actually do they say to you? Like, give me a good story and give us a bad one.
Well, I mean, usually, you've got your general manager, you've got your coach. I'm sure nowadays probably the president, like Brendan Shanahan, would probably be involved as well. And I think what they do is go over what the player did during the season, how he played in the playoffs, what he needs to do better, what he can improve on, that sort of thing. And we need you to be in better shape come training camp, like that. All that stuff is all discussed. And but I remember one time I was sitting there with Dan Maloney and Mike Nickluck, who were the coach and assistant coach. I don't believe Jerry McNamara was there. He was his general manager.
Yeah.
And I walked in, and that was after the 54-goal season. And Mike said, "How you doing?" And I said, I'm good." And he goes, "Okay, good. We're all good then. Get out of here." He said, "You had a great year. Just see if you can repeat it next year." And that was all he said. Like, "Okay, we're good. If you're good, so get out of here. Next guy, send in the next guy." And I thought that was quite funny, but at the same time, what else are they going to say to me? I mean, you just come off a 54 goal season, and I don't think there's a whole lot they could have said. I mean, I'm sure other guys had things said to them, probably more than likely. I know Billy Derlego, they told him that he needed to work harder over the summer and get in better condition, and things like that. So everybody's kind of told a little bit different stuff, but most of the time it's okay. Here's what we need you to work on this summer. We need you to get stronger, lower body, upper body. We need you to work on your skating or whatever the case might be. But there's always something that they tell you that you got to get better at.
Now, do you?
And I was surprised because they said, just get out of here. You're fine. I'm going, well, there must be something I can get better at.
Well, what about, did you ever, well, how about a bad one? Now, you must have had a couple with maybe Keenan. Did you ever get one with Keenan?
No, I never did. I got traded before during that season.
So he sent you the message halfway through the year then. He went and traded you right after Christmas.
Yeah, and so I never had an exit meeting. In Buffalo, I had a couple. They were okay. I mean, but there was things that they said like I needed to be better in certain areas. That was near the end of my career. Injuries were piling up. But at the same time, they said, we need you to be better. We need you to be better in certain areas. And yeah, they tell you that regardless of how good you are, what you've done in the past.
So just take a little one step further. Now, what about a contract year coming up? Did you ever find that there's maybe a couple shots in there that you thought were just not warranted to keep you down a little bit while you were negotiating, and you would have to go to your agent? Would you go to your agent then right away and tell him what was said and have him then approach the GM, like to cut this off at the pass?
No, nothing was ever said to me in those meetings about salary or contract coming up, but I do remember that after my first contract, and Harold publicly said that he's not going to get another dime. He'd only be a mediocre player in a 16 league, and I'm like, I was shocked, but no, I never, and then of course, Bob Pulford, I was making 300 at the time and scored 43 goals that year. And he offered me 260, 265, 265, a $40,000 pay cut. Nothing was said in the exit meeting, but that was what he offered me. And then we got an arbitration date set. He told Bill Waters that if I went to arbitration, he'd be trading me. And 3 days later, I had a new contract and I got a raise. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those weird things that happens. But I've never had anybody discuss my contracts in exit meetings.
Now, did the players? You guys obviously after the exit meetings, I think that's kind of usually year-end exit party day, also for the players, where they usually go to some watering hole. And do some of the guys share their stories with the other guys and have a few laughs over it?
Oh yeah. It was pretty comical. It was actually, it was probably a party week, not a party day back then anyway. And yeah, the guys would always share what they were told. And, some guys would just laugh it off. Other guys would be concerned and, worried, and guys would come up and say, hey, listen, don't worry about it. Just work on what they told you to work on and come to camp ready to play and you'll be fine. They got to tell you something, and whatever it is, don't worry about it. Just, be ready.
Now, can you recall one of the funnier stories, one of the funnier things guys were told, maybe a stupid thing or something like that?
No, I think the only one I can remember was, oh gosh, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He played for us. He's a tough guy. His name has escaped me. But anyway, he was like a fourth line guy. He didn't play much, but tough guy. And he didn't last long in the National Hockey League. But
Paul Higgins.
Paul Higgins, that's who it was. And that year he came to training camp and he didn't have his skates. And they said, well, where the hell are your skates? He said, I left them at the cottage. Let's go. Like, come on. Like, how do you leave your skates at the cottage when you're coming to training camp? So I remember we were out and he was told by in no uncertain terms, you come to camp next year, you better have your damn skates with you. So that was probably one of the best ones. But I mean, imagine a guy coming to training camp and saying, I forgot my skates at the cottage. Come on. Like, I mean, that is just ridiculous.
That's pretty funny, actually. But that's the kid that played at Henry Carr High School. And he was brought up to be the new tough guy with the Leafs.
Yeah, Jerry brought him in for that reason and never really panned out. I mean, you know, Higgy was a good kid, but he wasn't a very good player. And but he was tough as nails. And,
no question.
You know, but I mean, you played 2.5 minutes a game. What are you supposed to do with 2.5 minutes? I mean,
well, even the 2.5 minutes.
You get in a fight.
You still need your skates in those 2.5 minutes. So, all right, yeah. we're going to monitor all these things very closely. And, you know, at the end of the day, everything that we've got to offer Mr. Dubas, he's going to have his own agenda, as we know. And the minute he starts listening to us, you know, that's the minute he's going to be joining us on the podcast. And it'll be called Squid, Doobie, and the Ultimate Leafs Fan. Well, that's got a real nice ring to it. But I'm sure that's not what we're going to be seeing in the future. So I'm sure he will have some plan in place. And I do have confidence that the Leafs are going to make some good moves in the offseason. So let's just sit back now, folks. And maybe a parting shot, Rick, before we bring Borje onto the scene.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with Kyle. I mean, he's a smart guy. And he's not where he is by chance. He's done a great job in junior hockey and American Hockey League. He's got some things lined up. He's going to be working the phones and more than likely, I have confidence that he'll do a good job and make some moves and put some good things together.
That's fantastic. Well, guys, we're going to be watching and we'll definitely be talking about it as we move forward. Let's get to the second part of our terrific interview with Leaf legend Borje Salming.
Oh,
yeah. Enjoy it, guys. Borje, just picking up from there now, you go from Buffalo, you go to Philadelphia, and you fight the toughest guy in the league. Going through the rest of the league, well, let's just speed the question up a little bit here. Your brother, in 1972, played a game against Team Canada.
Yep.
And he had a little run-in with a guy by the name of Phil Esposito. Were you at that game, by the way?
Well, I played that game.
You played in it too. And yeah. He had a little problem with Phil. Now, did any of the players say anything to you when you entered the league and were playing? Did they give you any shots about your brother?
No, because I think, like, you know, Phil, he got a little, I don't know why he got so upset, but I think they had I think exhibition game in Gothenburg before another world tournament that Espo went to, and that's there was a lot of not fighting, but was all high sticking, and my brother was really a tough guy, so he never backed off. And you know, Canadians, when they come to Europe, they always think we're strongest and toughest, right? And they think they can, you know, usually can switch it. But then when you hit them back, then they said, what the hell was going on? You know, they're not supposed to hit us back. And that's what he did. And that's why Espo didn't like Sig.
So now, did any of the who do you recall anybody that really tried to challenge you? Like, I mean, every team, they try to take run at you, but anybody in particular you remember going through the league the first time that went after you?
In the 70s, there was a lot of them. Every team had, you know, maybe not the first year, but that was tough. You know, everybody tried to hit you and try to get you off the ice. But then when Philly got, you know, really, you know, when they won the Stanley Cup and everything, then and really scared. You know, I mean, there's a lot of guys in my team too. They hated to play against Philly because they were so rough. Because we didn't have no tough guys. But then all of a sudden, after a couple of games or a couple of years, then we got Tiger and a few other guys. Then we had some more, like, you know, toughness. So then it was so much easier for us.
Well, now what about, okay, so let's keep on with that Philly theme. couple of those playoff battles with you guys.
Uh-huh.
I recall one moment, I think probably the defining moment for you, I think watching you play anyway back in those days, the night that you got jumped by, sucker punched and jumped by Mel Bridgman at the playoffs, and the
Yep.
series was pretty rough. There was the battle in the penalty box, Roy McMurtry report, the police charges, all that stuff. And it was just, it was the way the Flyers were playing at the time, which was setting hockey back. But that's another whole story. But the following game, you scored a goal, a very emotional goal against them. And you danced down the boards and I think that was a defining moment for you. I don't know if you feel the same way, but where all of a sudden the fans, they were totally bought into you, that you showed up, you got beat up by the guys like the Thugs and the Assassins, and you showed up the next game and scored a big goal and didn't quit.
Well, that's true. I mean, either I was stupid or I don't know, but I never, I didn't really think of it. I knew they were after me. And of course, after a couple of years when I was more offensive and it was much better, they really tried. I knew that. They tried to get me out. They tried to, I always say, they tried to kill me. I knew that, when those guys tried to when they shot the puck in, when Schultz and the Hound Dog or whatever they'll call it, I knew they were not going to skate it in with the puck. They shot it in my corner and they weren't going to fucking kill me in there. So I sort of jumped on the puck a little earlier. I could see that, so I jumped in, they got the puck and then passed it out. And then all of a sudden, when you forecheck, you come in maybe one on one side, one on the other side. No. There was three guys coming right in my corner. But I passed it up, and then I up with my stick and tried to sort of protect myself. But then we had 3-on-2 instead, so I knew that.
Yeah, and do you remember that goal you scored that I talked about?
Oh, yeah. No, that was really fun. And that was a little bit what me and Daryl, we had sort of in practice, sometimes I pass it up to him and I follow the play. And he went, just a little, he did a little turn. And then he looked up and I went right in the middle of the defenseman and went in. That was sort of a play we had from before. So I was all alone with Perron. And luckily I scored.
No, I think that was a moment. Any fan from that era, I think, would point at that as probably that pivotal moment in your career in Toronto that just sort of embraced you with the fair. The fans just totally embraced you. And I don't know, Rick, do you remember that goal?
No.
I
was too young then.
I think I was probably.
You're too young. You're only a kid.
Well, no, I was probably playing junior then, so I was 17 or so. But playing with Borje for 7 years, I don't think people realize how tough he was. And big and strong, and I didn't see him take shit from anybody. He got hit, that was fine. He just kept playing, and I think people don't realize, and I don't mean toughness in fighting, but how tough Borje was to be able to go through those 2 decades, the 70s and 80s, which was, those 2 decades were fighting, high sticking, spearing, whatever the heck you wanted to do, and he got away with it. And he got through that because I think he was a lot tougher than people give him credit for, and stronger than people give him credit for. And the one thing people ask me a lot of questions, and I always talk about Borje's offense and how many points he had and everything. But I don't remember too many defensemen that were as good defensively as Borje, blocking shots. And I remember in practice, he used to piss me off all the time. I'd be going down the right side, I'd have a step on him, and then he'd reach in between my stick and my body, give it a little flick, and the puck would go into the corner, and then I would just turn and like, you asshole. And it was so frustrating, but he was so good at it that, when you get in the game, he'd do the same thing, and it was wonderful to see.
Now, Borje, you're going through the league after a couple times through. What was there any surprises that you found? Was the league better than you thought, as you expected, and were the players, as you thought they'd be, or did somebody really stand out and surprise you? What were your thoughts going through the league the first couple times?
like we talked about before, 72, I played the Canadians.
Yeah.
I think I've seen some games before that, but it was just like, some old games. But I knew that was the top gunners, like we came over, Canadian team, the top of national hockey, and we could, like our national could handle them, those guys. It was really, really, I think it was a tie game when we played that game. So then I knew like they were they were good, but they were not best. So I knew like we could handle it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I assume that. I mean, you have to have that thought in your mind to be successful in sports. And that brings me to, you and I met at one of the unveilings and we spoke, and you told me about Inge Hammerstrom. You always suggested that he was probably the best of all you guys from that period, but his timing, if he'd come into the league today, I think you told me, he would be a superstar. The timing of him coming to the league just wasn't the same. Two things I want to ask you. First off, follow up on that. And secondly, Harold Ballard with that, the bombastic owner that we've talked about, made that famous quote about the eggs in the corner and, coming out with no eggs broken. How emotionally or psychologically emotional was that for Inge? Did that have some impact on you too?
Well, I mean, that was pretty stupid to say that in the paper. I mean, Harold, sometimes Harold didn't even think. Like, he said some stupid things. Harold was a nice man when you knew him. He was fantastic to me. But he said some stupid things, and I didn't I didn't really care so much about it. But I know Inge really, that hurt Inge because, Inge with his skating ability and playing hockey, he really played well for Toronto Maple Leafs. But of course, he wasn't the guy who's going in the corner and try to, hit a guy and kill him or something like that, or hit back. Because, I was brought up like in a different way. So I didn't care if somebody, I could hit back and whatever. I didn't care who it was. But Inge was not that way. And of course, like you said, Inge, if he would be in the, say, by maybe 80, maybe 90s, I mean, he would have been a superstar. Because with his skating ability and shooting and everything, he was really good.
The other thing too, I guess, is, just we're on that topic of how tough it is. We've touched on the playoffs. When you went into the playoffs for the first time, the intensity level rises to a level that people it's unexplainable to people unless you actually experience it. Your first time going through it, did you actually sense that, or did the players warn you that the intensity level would increase volumes when you started playing for real in the playoffs?
Oh yeah, I mean it's intense. You could see it in the dressing room. Everybody was just going more crazy, and of course on the ice it was the same thing. Everybody sort of you gave it more than ever, in every game. But of course you always got to play your game. Not naturally, you can't go all over the limit. But of course it was something. You were going extra somehow.
Unless you have Red Kelly with the pyramid power, and then that would solve everything, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they gave a lot of power. Well, that was a fun thing too. I couldn't, from the beginning, you understand what he was trying to do. I think he mentally tried to sort of get you a little stronger and better. It works mentally, not.
Yes,
we put the sticks in the inside that and everything like that, and I, for me. I said, well, if that's going to help me, fine. I mean, I did it too. It can't hurt you anyway. So, but then he had a pyramid under the bench too. So hopefully it gave me some more stamina. I don't know.
Did you do any crazy things like that, Rick? Any rituals for you guys? Hockey players are superstitious, as we all know. What about some of the crazy things your teams have done over the years, or anything?
No, not really. I mean, I wasn't a real superstitious guy. I'm pretty sure I put my equipment on the same way every single time. I don't think it was on purpose. I think it was just habit that I put my left skate on first and then right skate, whatever it is. But I guess you probably could call it superstitious, but I think it was more of just habit. But I would always I'd take my stick the same way all the time, and I would put it in a certain spot just outside the dressing room before we would go out to play. So there was a few things like that that I did, and a few things before the game. I would always tap the post, and in the warm up, I would always take a bunch of pucks around the net, and I'd always, go upstairs with them to make sure that if I ever got that situation in the game, that I was going to get it over the goalie. So, yeah, there was a few things that I did, but it's not something that well, those things I did on purpose. I did, purposely, but some of the things were just habits. Some were superstitious.
Well, hey, listen, I can tell you guys, I play beer league hockey now, and if you sit in one guy's spot, you're dead. They'll catch you off the team. If you're beer league hockey, you can't sit in the guy's spot. Now, Borje, speak to us a little bit about your thoughts on Roger Nielsen when you played for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, Roger was really, he was a European style of coaching. He was really, when he came in, it was sort of like where I came from. That's how he looked at the videos and everything, and he had a lot of great ideas. I really liked him. He was really, really good, and I couldn't believe they really gave him the hat. I mean, I liked him. I loved him. Really, he was really good.
Well, I mean, you talk about the stupid things about it when he wanted to put the bag over his head for coming back to that just.
No, but that was just stupid things. I can't believe, what?
Yeah.
We couldn't believe it either. Like when I said, "What the hell's going on?" There, we were confused. So crazy. You can't believe it. So,
This is the NHL.
Well,
Remember, it's supposed to be the NHL, and you got a clown show going on here with the owner.
Yeah, we tried to play hockey and then doing crazy things. But it was a good laugh afterwards.
That was
like crazy.
That was the beginning of the end, so to speak, because Roger was a fantastic coach. And then after Roger, I mean, well, you were there through it all too, but you had Floyd, you had Joe Crozier, you had Mike Nicolak, you had Dan Maloney, you had John Brophy. I mean, after Roger Nielsen, we never had a coach that had systems. We never had a coach, I don't think, that looked at a video unless it was showing us how bad we were on any given night. And I think that was the most frustrating thing for me anyway when I came to Toronto, was the fact that, I had heard so much about Roger and how he was ahead of his time. And now all of a sudden we went back in time with all the coaches that we had. So that was a frustrating time for me. It must have been for you too, Borje.
Oh yeah, no, but I agree 100% because Roger had so many good ideas, and really fun ideas to win the hockey games. And I agree with the other coaches. I mean, like you said, that we never saw a video game or a show or you should do this and that. It was just screaming and throwing stuff sometimes. I talk about Brophy now, coming in the dressing room and destroying the whole dressing room, and the trainers were going crazy. Everything down. And then he went out. That was our tactic, to play hockey.
While we're going through all these Hall of Famers as coaches, now what about when Punch came back? What was your experience with Punch for the short time you were working for him, so to speak?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Punch. See, I didn't know too much about him, before that. Of course, he was, he was the one they gave him the Stanley Cup 67. So of course you thought he was good, but he was really, I don't know. He brought so many Buffalo players coming into our team, and it was so. It happened so many things in outside the dressing room and inside the dressing room. I think we had more TV guys and newspaper guys there because I always want every day something happened. And we came in there, and every time we come in the restaurant, okay, what's going on today? That was not how you think about are we going to play hockey? No, what happened today?
So
it was like the Barnum and Bailey. It was like the Barnum and Bailey circus there on a daily basis. You got Harold's goal was to be the headlines in the sports on every newspaper every day. And he pretty much accomplished it by saying the stupidest things that he could possibly say or do. And Borje is right. It was like you come in every day, and it wasn't about, okay, what are we going to do today? How's practice? how are we going to prepare for the game or whatever it might be. It was, oh, well, what the hell happened today? You know, and that's the way it was for my whole 7 years anyway.
Now, Borje, at any point during before Imlach and that, when the WHA was in existence,
Yeah.
did you ever consider playing in the league? Did your frustrations with the Leafs get to the point where maybe I should look at that, or maybe they were offering you monetarily a lot more money?
No way. No way. Because you know what? Toronto Maple Leafs treated me so good, and I love to play for Toronto Maple Leafs. Believe me. And you know, play at the Gardens. I'm so happy to, you know, I had the chance to do that and play 16 years for Toronto. You know, just even that. But the guys, you know, Jim Gregory, John McNamara, all the guys, they really treated us good. You know, I really, for me, it was just like, you know, fantastic time. I never wanted to be traded.
I can't say the same thing about. I can't say the same thing about Jerry Borje, but
No.
because he didn't treat me the same way he treated you, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Borje, 1970.
Jerry, like, you know, I know he had me under his arm, sort of. I know he treated me so good, you know, and I know. I don't know it. I didn't know everything what he did to you and somebody else, but I mean to me he was really good. So I can't say so much more.
Now, Borje, 1970. Oh, sorry, Rick. Go ahead. Finish.
Sorry. Okay. I wanted to ask you, and this is something that I've wondered for so long, but because Harold Ballard came to me in when I was 22 years old, and he didn't ask me, but he just told me, you're the captain. Yeah. And my thought was, okay, if I say no, he's going to trade me. And I don't want to be traded. I love it here in Toronto. I want to stay here. Did he ask you to be captain? Because I know that Matt's called you when he was asked, and you told him not to turn it down. Were you ever asked to be captain when Daryl left?
If they asked me to be a captain?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, after Daryl left.
Yeah.
They did?
They did. Not the first year, but after, I don't know if it was the same year or the year after, he wanted me to be a captain. And they asked me actually twice, one year, and I said no. Because I think my English, I didn't want to be like, you know, out and have like speeches and all that stuff, a little bit like that. But also, I knew what Daryl went through before he left, and I didn't want to go through that. I want to play hockey and not be like in between the management and the players. I wanted to be with the players. That's what I love to play with the guys and play with, you know, and be with the guys. So I didn't want to be somebody's, you know, who was between everybody. So that's why I told they had meetings with me, and Harold said, you got to be the captain. And I said, no, I don't want to be the captain. So I don't know if we didn't have a captain for 2-3 years, right? So we had 3 A's instead. So, and I was the captain anyway. So I was sort of holding on to it anyway. So that was not a big deal really, but I didn't want to go through what Daryl did. And I think that you said yes, that you said yes to the captain, that was good, because Toronto Maple be a captain with Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, if I look back, I should have said yes, of course. But, you know, there happened too much under that time, those 2-3 years before Daryl left. I mean, that was no fun time, you know, not for Lanny, Daryl, and everybody who sort of got traded because of Punch. I mean, and that has nothing.
In my case, I was 22 years old. I knew I wasn't ready to take over as a captain at that point. But like I said, I'm pretty darn sure that if I had told Harold no, that he might have traded me. And that was something that at that point in my career, I certainly didn't want to get traded again. And so I did say yes, even though I knew that I wasn't really prepared for it at that time. But I had a lot of help from you and some of the other guys. And I think a couple of years later, then I was ready. And, you know, so thankfully I had the help of yourself and Ronnie Ellis and guys like that to help me through it, because I don't think I was ready at 22, but I didn't think I had much choice at that time. when the owner comes to you and says, "You're the captain." Like, oh, okay, you know.
And it, you know what? And it's hard. Like, you know, it is Toronto. I always say the Toronto is Mecca of hockey. That's what I say. And, you know,
Yeah.
it's not easy to be a captain in Toronto because they expect so much from a captain and, of course, from the team and from the guys. And you guys are supposed to play hockey and be good. And you're supposed to be a captain. Then you got to really take care of everybody. And it's a big job. And, yeah, Ricky, you did a good job, you know. And just to say, yes, you did the right thing.
Now, let me ask you this. I don't think you heard the second part of Squid's question. The story goes that Matt Sundin called you when he was asked to be captain, and you told him, take it. You'll regret it later if you don't. Is that a true story?
That's the true story, yes.
And so what did you tell? You just told him, take it. You don't.
No, yeah, because he said, you know, they asked me to be a captain, and I just said, listen, I told him the story that, you know, they asked me to be a captain, and I said no, but you know, afterwards, of course, now I should have said yes because I should have done it because be a captain for Toronto Maple Leafs, I mean, that's really big, and that's, I mean, it's not like, you know, the whole thing, but that would be nice if I'd done it. But that's what I'm saying to Squid, like you said yes, that was the right thing. I know it was hard for you to do it at the time because you were 22. I mean, that was really good for you to do that.
But it was a big honor. It still is today to be the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He played with the Maple Leafs to start with is an honor to me anyway. But to be the captain of that team and wear that C on your sweater, to me was probably the biggest honor that I could ever have.
Yeah.
So, Borje, you know, you guys, as we've discovered here again today, and everybody from that era knows, you guys are a very close-knit team coming out of the 70s. Now, in 79, as the story goes, you know, Hedberg and Nielsen both wanted to come and play for the Maple Leafs when the WHA was breaking up, but Uncle Hal said he couldn't afford them, so off they went and ended up playing for the Rangers. And with all the other things going on around the hockey club, then Bunch brought in and bringing back all those other guys and all the upheaval going on with Sittler and all that stuff. Then all of a sudden they make a trade for this guy whose face is on the screen here with us, along with Bill Derlego. What was your thought through that whole process? And then when these two kids arrived, it got traded for a couple of pretty popular players too.
Now, of course, I mean, I didn't know Billy and we played against each other, of course, but I can't remember when I played against them. But I mean, always when somebody got traded to your team, I mean, I didn't feel sorry for them, but I mean, I knew it was hard. It was not easy to go and leave your best, you know, buddies from your team and then come to another team. And then you got to be, I knew Tiger went away, but he was one of my best friends and still is. But of course, you know what hockey is, when you get traded, you're traded. You can't do nothing about it because I saw so many guys got traded and you can't do nothing about it. So when Rick and Billy comes, you know, they were welcome like crazy. I mean, I knew they were going to help us, and I wanted them to come in and feel the best. You know, you came to the best team, and come here. You're so welcome.
Now, the first part of my call was on Hedberg and Nielsen when they wanted to join the Leafs in '79. Was that a true story? I mean, that's the rumor that's out there.
You know what? I never heard of that. Not I heard somebody said now for like maybe for a few years back, but never heard of that at that time that they were coming here.
Jerry McIntyre told us that story. And
really? I didn't know that.
And Harold couldn't afford them.
Wow, that's too bad.
Well, no, he didn't want to afford them. He probably didn't want to afford them. He could afford them. He just didn't want to pay them.
Yeah, probably. But you know what? They didn't want to have another Swede there. That's why they were enough.
So I got a trick question here for both of you guys. So now you guys sat beside each other for 7 years in the dressing room. Okay, well, Rick sat between you and Ronnie Ellis, I believe. Borje, tell us something about Squid that people may not know, like a little story about him. And Rick, you do the same about Borje.
Well, you know why they call him Squid, right?
Yes.
Okay, I won't tell them that story.
That's a good one.
No, but no, Ricky, you could see when he came in, he is a goal scorer, But the only thing I tried, and after a while, when you could see, how good he was, like he excellent shot and everything. I want to try it. I said, "Wait, can I try your stick?" And I got them Titan stick. That was heavier than pine wood. That was, I couldn't believe he could play with a stick like that. There was no balance, nothing. But he could score goals. Believe me.
Okay, your turn there, Squid.
Well, the only thing I remember is coming in, and after, I don't know, let's say a month or so of being there. So I got Borje on my right side, and I got Ronnie Ellis on my left side. And of course, Ronnie was a born again Christian at the time. Although he never preached it to you or anything like that, Ronnie was one of the most gentlemanly persons I've ever met. But anyway, I'm sitting there, and I just remember thinking one day, I said, Borje was a good partier. And so I said, it feels like I got the devil on this side and I got the angel on this side. And I said, which way do I go? Like the cartoons. And I go, which way do I go? So I went a little bit more to the right side, to the devil's side, and as I called it, which really wasn't the devil, but and more the partying side. And but I couldn't help it because this guy here was like so good and at everything, and including partying. And I said, I want to be with this guy.
All right, so Borje, just going back a little bit, the 1976 Canada Cup, and you're playing for Sweden. Yep. And I was at this game actually at Maple Leaf Gardens. The ovation you got before the start of that game when they introduced you. Do you remember, like, what was going through your mind standing on the blue line that night?
Well, you know what? The first game was actually with USA, right? And I got the standing ovation. I had no clue at all. A little bit, I knew like, Toronto, like they were so, Canadians, Americans. So I thought they like maybe boo me. And I had something like that. I don't know. Now here I come in I have a Swedish sweater on and not sort of a Toronto Maple Leaf sweater on. So, and all of a sudden, they started to clap their hands and all the stuff when I came out from the bench. And then when I stand there, I said, "Oh my God!" And then all of a sudden they're standing up, and I couldn't believe like they never stopped either. So I started to turn around a little bit, and then I said, I couldn't understand what they were doing. But that was amazing. Now afterwards, I understood, they really, somehow they really liked me, because, I've done something good there. That's what they wanted to show me. And I was really appreciate that. But on the other hand, like what I forgot, when I played Canada, they did the same thing.
Yes.
And that game was worse because Daryl and Lanny was playing in the other side, and I don't know if they got a standing ovation, but I got a standing ovation, and more than those guys who were Canadians, and Canada is Canada, for the best team they have in Canada. That was strange a little bit.
Well, some of the Team Canada players were pissed because they said, "Why are they giving this guy a standing ovation? Should be cheering for us. We're representing your country, and you're cheering for the opposition."
See, that's why a little bit like that. That's what I felt. I felt, what the hell are they doing? They're not supposed to share up the other guys, not me. But it was nice. It's so nice that they did that to me. Amazing.
Yeah, well, you deserved it at the time. You were playing phenomenally. Now, inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in '96. You're the first Swedish player to go into the Hall. And in '98, you're elected to the top 100 players of all time. I mean, your retirement of your sweater. Has this all sunk on you, the type of career that you've had?
It's amazing. When I got into the Hockey Hall of Fame, when they called me, I cried afterwards because I think it's so many memories, when you go through, I played 16 or 17 years in National Hockey League. And then I suppose, because, you heard so much about it, you were down there, you talked to the guys, the older guys, and the guys who were in the Hall of Fame, and you knew I knew that was so important. It was the best you can ever get when you quit hockey. And I'm supposed to be there, a Swedish guy coming from the north part of Sweden, from nowhere. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame. That was amazing. That was so big.
Now, do you ever sit back and reflect that day back in '73, you fly across from Sweden to Canada and start playing in the National Hockey League, and you look around the league and it's you and Inga and nobody else really. And now today, how the game has expanded, and it's, as we said earlier on this call, you could have 5 or 6 Swedes, a couple of Americans, a couple of like everywhere from around the world. Are you amazed at how the game is growing? And did you ever reflect back on the impact you've had or contribution you made by you coming over and having the success you did?
Well, say for 10 years ago, maybe when somebody said that, I didn't realize, I said no. I mean, of course I did something, but I mean, it was no big deal. But today I understood, I've been understanding more that I must have done something right, some impact on a lot of people, because like Jerry said, that he started the whole thing when he went over there, because there was no scouts over there. And he was the first scout over there, and then he came back, and then all of a sudden there was, 100 scouts over there in Sweden and Europe to try to get hockey players.
Yeah, and now, I mean, again, if you take it's one of those things, if you think about it this way, let's take the sort of opposite approach. Like 1972, the Summit Series changed the game of hockey forever. Everybody's in agreement with that. But think about this. What if Canada had lost? Would the game have changed the same way? And I say the same thing to you when you came over a year later. What if you hadn't been successful? Like, what would have happened? Just think about how the course of history may have changed with those 2 instances moving forward.
That's true. Yeah. I guess, I must have showed something, that I agree with you. Somehow, if I wouldn't done really bad on me and Inge, then probably the Scott wouldn't go over. So, but I think maybe they saw something what we did. We did something right.
Yes, you certainly did. So we're getting near the end here. We've got now, Squid, anything you want to throw at Borje before we wrap this up?
No, you know what? I just want to say that it was a pleasure playing with him for 7 years, and I got a picture of the first year that I scored my 50th goal. He's in the picture on the point on the power play, and it was just a real treat playing with him for 7 years and watching what he could do. And like I said, I don't think people realize how tough he was and how good he was defensively. I don't think people give him enough credit for that, and especially the toughness part of it, because I've seen this guy block shots, get hit, just keep playing. Like, I mean, it's just, to me, it was remarkable to watch him go through that and continue to keep on going. And then that horrible night in Detroit, when you had your face cut, and I think he was playing within less than a week, and like, that shows how tough he was to come back and play after that in such a short period of time.
Now, Borje, the other day I had a chat with.
I have to say something too, Squid.
Yeah.
Ricky, at the same time, you're a great teammate, and we had such a good time, on the ice and off the ice. I mean, I will never forget you and Billy and everybody. We had so fun. I mean, believe me, that was, there's so many stories we have in our mind. And I know when I get a little older, when I'm sitting, in my, what do you call that? My wheelchair, whatever. Yeah.
Not a wheelchair.
I'm gonna start laughing the whole time, and I know everybody's gonna ask, why is he sitting there laughing about?
Well, I
have to agree with you on that.
Hey, I'll give you this one here. I talked to Jimmy Devellano the other day, Borje, and he said, I know he signed you your last year. You tried to play there. But he said to me, they really respected you as a player, but he also liked the fact that he was going to give a dig to Toronto by taking their best player.
He said that?
Yeah, Jimmy said that. He always takes digs at the Toronto Maple Leafs against me. So he gave me a shot.
Oh.
So now, talk about quickly your life after hockey. You've got some business ventures. Maybe you'd like to tell us about that.
Yeah, well, my own brand, which is called Salming, and we started with Salming underwear in 1991, and now we have so much. We have perfumes, we have running, running all the equipment from top to the bottom, and we have running shoes. We got indoors with the same thing for handball, for floorball. We got for squash. We got squash rackets. We got all kinds of stuff, and so. It's really doing well. We all across. We're in North America too, and we have agents in Toronto, so we're doing really well across the world.
Well, that's fantastic. That's great to hear.
Okay, so
Oh, thanks.
Mike, on his product,
Yeah.
I remember when he started the underwear, and I said, "Can you send me some for Joyce, for my wife?" And whatever, the bras and the panties and all that kind of stuff. And sure enough, he sent them over, and she said it was the most comfortable underwear she had ever worn. And she said that, she still says that to this day. And so I might have to get you to hook her up again, Borje, with some.
But you know, Squid, they were sexy too, right? Weren't they?
Oh, yeah, they were, yeah.
So you liked them too, I know that.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Hey, Borje, he's blushing.
Yeah, I know that. That's why I want him.
So, hey, now listen, you're going to get to Toronto when you're clear at some point?
Yeah, well, we're planning actually going over to Hall of Fame weekend. I don't know what's going on. We have to wait and see, with the corona and everything. So, but we're definitely going to go over, me and my wife.
Well, when you come into Toronto, Squid and I owe you a lunch. So we'll
that would be nice. I would love to do that.
and we'll set that up for sure. Hopefully, you're going to be here that weekend. Well,
Yes.
Borje, it's been a pleasure, an honor, just a terrific discussion. We got our technical difficulties out of the way.
Yeah.
Great, we'll see you here. I know all our viewers and our listeners are going to love this. And listen, great talking to you, and thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks so much. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Squid.
Borje, thank you very much. It was a blast.